up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Podcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, it is another NFT related podcast. And in this case, a couple months ago, we actually did a podcast talking about, do certain NFT sets deserve a series 2? And now we're basically following up on a sequel where we do have some series that do have a series 2, but do they deserve a series 3, or in some cases, maybe even a series 4? And I should let you guys know in advance is that if you hear some sort of random buzzing in the background, we do have an air conditioner going on because it is hot as balls here in Canada now, surprisingly. But nonetheless, we're going to be going through, I believe it is 10 NFT sets that have multiple series, whether there is a series 2 or the technical instance of a series 3. So MD, are you ready to talk about these NFT sets?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these sets got a Series 2 for a reason, so let's see if they're deserving of a Series 3.
All right, so the first set that we're going to be talking about is the Nickelodeon Funko NFT set. Of course, we got Series 1, which I believe released in February of 2022, in which we got ourselves the Grail being Tommy, and then legendaries of Chucky, Ember McLean, Vlad Plasmus, and Arnold Shortman, and then the royalty being the slimed Freddy Funko. And then Series 2 that came out basically a full year later in 2023, we got ourselves the Grail being Rocco, then legendaries of Cynthia, Ed Bighead, Winslow, Professor Membrane, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Reptar. Both these sets are pretty good. Like, Series 1 was a really great set when, of course, you do have different versions of Tommy and Chucky for Rugrats. Obviously, Rugrats is a huge licensor when it comes to Nickelodeon. And then you have the very first Danny Phantom pops that aren't, of course, Danny Phantom himself from the New York Comic Con exclusive we got a few years prior to this. Arnold Shortman, which I thought was all right, but that Freddy Funko is easily, in my opinion, one of the greatest royalty pops that have ever been made, even to this day as we are recording this. But Series 2, I do like the variety of what we got here. Of course, we got some Rugrats, Rocco's Modern Life, the first Cat Dog pop besides Cat Dog with Winslow, and then we got Professor Membrane from Invader Zim, and then we do have a pretty decent royalty with the Freddy Funko Reptar. I kind of wish that it was a little bit slime to kind of based off of Series 1 realistically. I will say firsthand that Series 1 is the better of the two realistically, and that's because you have a great royalty, you have two awesome pops from Danny Phantom, while with Series 2, the royalty is all right, and the Grail, a lot of people did complain about realistically with the Rocco. The Cynthia was okay. I mean, a lot of people did like that, though. I do like the variety in Series 2, but it was a lot of, I guess, shoes to fill to compare to see if they can beat out Series 1. And do they deserve a Series 3? I think so. I think this could be a series that could continue for the rest of time, realistically. Like, a few years down the line, we could see a Series 4, a Series 5.
Yeah, both of these series are pretty good. So starting off with Series 1, yeah, I love that Freddy Funko. It's so cool. He's got the Nickelodeon blimp, which is wicked, and the slime on the Freddy himself looks really cool as well. The two Danny Phantom pops are great as well. People were super excited for these. The Rugrats pops are a little lackluster in my opinion. I think that there's other characters that could get done before we see variations of characters that already have Funko Pops. And then with the Arnold, this one seems a little lackluster as well. I mean, it's cool that he's slimed, but again, we could have seen different characters from Hey Arnold rather than just getting yet another Arnold in the Funko lineup. And then with Series 2, we got Rocco holding the weights. That's a pretty funny pop, but I don't know. It's not amazing. Again, it's one of those characters where we've seen a couple different Roccos already. There's been a chase version of a Rocco, so I don't know if this is needed, but it's still a pretty iconic moment, so that's pretty cool. Then we have Cynthia from Rugrats, and this is a great pop as well. I really enjoy this one. The Ed Bighead from Rocco's is awesome as well, and there's the example right there. Like, we haven't seen an Ed, so it's cool that we got that pop for this Series 2. Then Winslow from Cat Dog is awesome. It's great to see another Cat Dog pop because it's been so long. And then the Professor Membrane is pretty sweet as well. And then the Freddy Funko as Reptar is pretty cool. Like, I like it, but there is something about that slimed Freddy that is better. So when comparing Series 1 and Series 2, there's things that I like better about Series 2, and there's also things that that I like better about Series 1. I think I'm going to go with Series 1, though, because I think all around it is kind of just the better series. And does Nickelodeon deserve a Series 3? And the answer is yes. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's so many IPs from Nickelodeon that there's so many characters, so many things that they can do in this NFT set. And then they're not forced to make, let's say, a whole wave of Rocco's Modern Life or a whole new wave of Rugrats. You can just throw some pops in for the NFT sets and kind of make everyone happy.
Next licensor we're talking about is Transformers, which Series 1, I believe, released in, I want to say March of 2022, which this set we have the Grail being the Gold Chrome Optimus Prime, with legendaries being Devastator, Hot Rod, Rumble, and Sideswipe, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Bumblebee. And then Series 2 of Transformers actually came out in February of this year, as we were recording this, being 2024, which for the Grail, we have ourselves the Metallic King Starscream, along with legendaries of Ultra Magnus, Blitzwing, RC, Cheetor, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Grimlock, with that pop also being metallic. Series 1 is pretty decent. I do love Devastator. That one looks awesome, and especially Hot Rod. Those were kind of the highlights in my opinion. Having your Grail be Gold Optimus Prime, it's good, but not good at the same time. It's not good because obviously it's just a gold chrome version of an already existing character like Optimus Prime, but it's good for the sake that it is the more limited piece, and that the really big hardcore Transformers fans that might not want to get the entire set don't really have to be forced to get that. So I do like that about that. Royalty is pretty cool, but with Series 2, we do have some pretty cool pops. Ultra Magnus looking pretty identical to Optimus Prime. I can't remember like the background of this character. I know that I did a little bit of research before doing the video, I'm pretty sure I did a few months back, of comparing Series 1 and 2. RC, one of the only female Transformers, that's cool to add to an NFT set. I do enjoy the way that Cheetor looks. I feel like it's the most underrated pop of this set. I know a lot of people are trash talking this. The King Starscream is pretty sweet, where even though we did have a Starscream, it is a little bit different. Plus, with the metallic specification, that looks great. And then the Freddy Funko Grimlock, also adding that metallic specification, definitely makes sense for Transformers to have that specification. And between Series 1 and 2, I gotta say that Series 2 is better by just a little bit. I do think that the royalty is better for Series 2 than 1, just because of the metallic specification added to it. But it is, when you're comparing the Grails, the Series 2 is much better than Series 1, where obviously it's just a gold chrome character for 1, but a slightly different version of a character that we haven't seen like 10 pops of, like we did with Optimus Prime, in the form of King Starscream. And does Transformers deserve a Series 3? I feel like this may be a case where I want to say no, because how are you going to top off Series 2? But at the same time, I mean, it is actually one of the only sets in 2024 so far to actually sell out. I would say, for the sake of knowing that it's going to sell out in a company point of view, that yeah, there should be a Series 3.
So starting off with the Transformers Series 1, that gold Optimus Prime is so unnecessary, but I could understand why some hardcore fans would want to get their hands on that. The Devastator is definitely my favorite pop out of this series. I think that that's a really cool one. And then the Freddy Funko as Bumblebee. Yeah, this one looks a little bit weird. There's something to this pop that is just, it's just a little different, but it's still kind of cool at the same time. And then going into Series 2, I mean, all of these look really great. The Cheetor, I think, looks really cool as well. And then the Freddy Funko as Grimlock. This one looks a little bit better than the Bumblebee, in my opinion. But, I mean, it's Transformers. They're all very similar pops when you break it down, but they're pretty cool nonetheless. And I'm going to have to agree with DK. I think that Series 2 is better. That gold Optimus Prime really hurts the set for me, in my opinion. Just overall, Series 2 is better. And do they deserve a Series 3? I'm going to say no. I don't know. Like, obviously, there's so many Transformers. They could easily come up with a Series 3, but it's also not for me. I don't collect all of the Transformers pops, so it's not something that I'm really going to invest my money and time into.
The next set we're talking about is Scooby Doo, which we got Series 1, which had released in March of 2022, which the grail for the set was Superhero Scooby Doo, while for the legendaries, we got ourselves Snow Ghost, Ghost of Redbeard, Charlie the Robot, and a Funko soda figure in this set being the Witch Doctor, while we also have a royalty pop of Freddy Funko as Captain Cutler. And then for Series 2, which actually is coming up very soon, it'll be the newest set to have a Series 2 with Scooby Doo. 2 next week, actually. We got ourselves for the Grail is the Black Knight, along with legendary pops of the Puppet Master, Phantom Virus, Headless Spectre, the royalty of Proto as Scooby Doo, which this pop will be glow in the dark, and a brand new rarity in this set being Ultra Rarity with Scooby Doo in disguise. So, talking about this set, so with Scooby Doo Series 1, I mean, overall, this was pretty sweet. I do like the Grail for the sake of, like I mentioned about the Gold Chrome Optimus Prime. If you're looking to get different characters, then you're not really forced to get this Scooby Doo. And if you really want the entire set, then go for this specific pop. And then, kind of the highlights I feel of the set are the Snow Ghost and the Ghost of Redbeard. And then the other pops are pretty cool too. And especially with this set being one of 2 sets having Funko sodas, and still no Funko sodas to this day, is pretty unique. And then with Series 2, this is a pretty decent set with some pretty awesome pops, including the Black Knight, which I feel like if anyone were to predict the next set, a lot of people would have said Black Knight. I don't want to go into too much because, of course, earlier on this week, I did release a video of what I think is better between both Series 1 and Series 2 of Scooby Doo, in which I know it's a little bit of spoiler, especially for MD, but I did say Series 2 was a bit better, especially with the introduction of a brand new rarity. Does it deserve a Series 3? I could say yes. Once again, it's like what I mentioned with Transformers. I could say yes because of knowing that this is probably going to sell out, but then at the same time, how are you going to top off this set realistically? So, you know what? Maybe I'll say no for right now, but if it does happen for a Series 3, then yeah, you know what? It definitely deserves a Series 3, but I'm going to say right now, I don't know how they're going to top off Series 2 with some bangers that they added here.
So Series 1 for Scooby-Doo, this is a pretty solid set. I like the Scooby, like the Super Scooby look there. I think that that's pretty cool. The Snow Ghost is great. The Ghost of Captain Redbeard's great. Charlie the Robot, I think, is hilarious as well. And then the Freddy Funko in this set being Captain Cutler is really, really cool as well. I like the way that they pulled that off. The Witch Doctor Soda, I don't know if I love sodas being inside of the NFT sets. I think it's just weird. It's just different. I could understand why people would like this, but I just think it's a little bit unnecessary. And then the brand new Series 2, I'm very excited about this. We have the Puppet Master, that's pretty cool. The Phantom Virus is amazing. I've been wanting this pop for so long, and now we're finally getting it. So hopefully I can pull one of these because I definitely need that for my collection. Then we have the Headless Spectre. This is pretty neat as well. It's definitely a different kind of pop that we haven't really seen in the Scooby-Doo lineup. Then with the Ultra of Scooby-Doo in disguise, I think this is hilarious. I really, really like that pop. And then the Black Knight, I think, is super iconic, so that makes sense to be the Grail. And then the royalty Proto as Scooby-Doo is perfect. I love the idea of Proto basically doing the same thing that Freddy and now Franny are doing, where they have different costumes or different characters that they portray. And it makes a whole lot of sense for Proto, because he is a dog, to be Scooby-Doo for this set. I think this is great. And yeah, I think Series 2 is better than Series 1. Series 1 is definitely well-rounded, but I don't love the soda in there. And then with Series 2, I think that there's a good amount of different characters. The Scooby-Doo in disguise is hilarious. And then, of course, one of my favorite villains, I guess, from Scooby-Doo being the Phantom Virus. Very excited about that. And does Scooby-Doo deserve to have a Series 3? I'm going to say yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of characters that we still need to see, like maybe the Boo Brothers, the characters from the Ghoul School. I think that we can see different variations of a red shirt Shaggy, I think would be pretty cool. I don't think we've seen that in pop form yet. So yeah, I definitely think there's potential that we could get a really awesome Series 3 down the road.
Next set we're going to be talking about is DC Comics, which Series 1 had released in, I believe, May of 2022, while Series 2 released September of 2022, literally months apart. For Series 1, first of all, with the Grail, we have ourselves the Batman Rebirth, along with legendaries of the Gotham by Gaslight Batman, the Flash, Green Lantern, and the Eradicator, with the royalty being Freddy Funko as Batman. And then for Series 2, we have ourselves the Grail being the Azrael Batman, along with legendaries of Parallax Hal Jordan, Justice Armor Batman, Earth 23 Superman, and Connor Hawk. And then we got ourselves Freddy Funko as the Riddler for the royalty. These sets of pops are okay. I don't think they're entirely the greatest, but I think they're okay for the most part. So obviously starting off with Series 1, I think it's pretty decent for a Series Series 1, obviously you have some sort of version of probably the more popular DC Comics characters, especially ones that are involved with the Justice League. The Freddy Funko, I feel, may be the highlight of it, but of course, it runs into that problem that I usually don't like about Freddy Funko Pops, and that you can just easily do like a head swap and a body swap with different pops of Freddy Funko and Batman in order to make that, instead of forking up so much money to get that pop realistically. Then for Series 2, I like it for the sense of them trying to get out there with different obscure versions of different Batmans and Green Lanterns, and especially you have like Green Arrow with Connor Hawk. I really enjoy that pop, but I do remember this set being like ridiculously cheap as terms to the cards when you can get it on Atomic Hub and stuff like that. I kind of do dig the royalty much more with Series 2 than I do with Series 1. However, I do think that the legendaries are a little bit better with Series 1 than there is with Series 2. So overall, I will say that Series 1 is better than Series 2 for the most part, although there are some really cool obscure characters with Series 2. A lot of these Batmans and these obscure versions kind of reminds me of those Walgreens exclusive pops that just won't sell. And that's what I'm getting at with that. And that's probably why these sold for really cheap on the secondary market. And does it deserve a Series 3? And I will flat out say no, because I feel that with DC, you can expand to separate licensors within DC to make a set. Like, example, later on, they did do a Dark Knight trilogy series, which did extremely well.
So with the DC Series 1, I hate these sets. I'm just going to flat out say that. The pops aren't bad, but I feel like it's just pops that we've seen so many times over. There's been so many Batmans. The Flash at this point has had quite a few pops as well. But I can understand why they do this set. And then the Freddy Funko as Batman is pretty cool. I don't mind that pop. And then with the Series 2, this gets a little bit better, I think. I like how you have the more obscure versions of the characters. I think the Connor Hawk is pretty cool. Then the Earth 23 Superman, I think that's pretty cool as well. It's just different. It's not just another random Superman. It's different, and it's for hardcore fans, which I do enjoy that part of it. I do think that Series 2 is better than Series 1, and I don't think that they're deserving of a third series, but knowing Funko, we probably will end up getting it. But if we don't, and we do just see like Batman lineups or Green Lantern lineups, for example, I think that would be a really good idea.
Next set we're talking about is My Little Pony. So Series 1 came out in June of 2022, while Series 2 came out in April of 2024. So starting off with Series 1, which we have ourselves the Grail being Rarity, with legendaries of Mod Pie, Princess Luna, Queen Cresselia, and Sunset Shimmer, with the royalty being Freddy Funko Spike. And then the recent Series 2 set, which actually only has 4 redeemables instead of 6 like the first series, we got ourselves the Grail Pop being Daybreaker, with legendary pops of Applejack and Princess Twilight Sparkle, and then the royalty being King Sombra, which is both a metallic and glow in the dark pop. So starting off with Series 1, these are okay looking pops. The Rarity, I feel like, is the highlight, and I guess based on the name Rarity, it definitely makes sense as the Grail. I do like the Sunset Shimmer because of the bright colors involved with the orange, red, and the yellow. And I think my favorite pop of that set actually is the Freddy Funko Spike. And then with Series 2, I like the Applejack for the sake that I actually predicted this pop when predicting what would be in this set. So I guess that's a little bit of personal reaction towards that. I do have a little bit of gripes, though, for the sake of why did the King Sombra have to be 2 specifications when it looks like it could have been perfectly fine just being metallic, and then you could have added the glow in the dark specification to that Grail Daybreaker. I think that would have been pretty awesome with the flame colors that are involved with Daybreaker, while with the glow in the dark specification for King Sombra, it's probably going to be the green eyes, and that's going to be it. I almost want to say, I may say Series 2 right now, just because really my only gripe of it is because of why is King Sombra 2 specifications instead of 1, while I feel like I would have more gripes with Series 1 realistically. But does it deserve a Series 3? Hell no. I even mentioned in the podcast the last time before a Series 2 was announced for My Little Pony that it didn't even deserve a Series 2. I don't think it deserves a Series 3, and especially because of how many packs ended up being burned for Series 2, where it was like well over 50%, maybe even close to 60% of the packs being burned Hound.
All right, My Little Pony. Series 1 is pretty cool. I actually like how they've rounded out some of the characters here. You got Rarity, which I think is cool. The Princess Luna is pretty cool. And then the Freddy Funko as Spike, I think is hilarious. That's definitely one of my favorite My Little Pony pops of all time. And then with Series 2, Applejack is really great as well. I like the way that looks. And then the Princess Twilight Sparkle is decent as well. And then the Daybreaker as well as the King Sombra are pretty cool characters to see part of this lineup. The King Sombra is weird. It almost doesn't seem like a My Little Pony pop. It seems more like a Transformer, which is very interesting, but I don't really know about that character at all. But yeah, I don't know. These series are weird. I don't love them. And yeah, when they're burning so many packs, they're definitely not great. Which one is better between Series 1 and Series 2, in my opinion? That's tough because I think there's a lot more detail going into Series 2, but I think I like the way that the pops look for Series 1, and that Spike is just too good. I'm going to go with Series 1 being better than Series 2. And does it deserve a Series 3? No, of course not. I don't think so. I think there's many reasons. I feel like we've seen a lot of different ponies now at this point. Obviously, there's more, but I don't know if it's necessary. And if the packs aren't going to sell, then probably not a great idea to even make a Series 3. It's just a waste, in my opinion.
Next up, we have ourselves the Hanna Barbera Funko NFTs. So starting off with Series 1, which I believe released, I want to say July of 2022, which we have ourselves for the Grail. It was the Space Attire Huckleberry Hound. While with the Legendaries, we got ourselves Elroy Jetson, George Jetson, and Astro from the Jetsons. And then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Space Ghost with Blimp. And then for Series 2, which had released basically a year later in 2023, for the Grail, it's Huckleberry Hound with the guitar. And then for the Legendaries, we got Birdman, Mighty Mightor, Mr. Jinx with Pixie and Dixie. And then for the Royalty, we have ourselves Freddy Funko Letterman. Both these sets are all right. There are some good things, but there are some gripes at the same time. So with Series 1, my huge gripe about this is basically almost what I had mentioned in the past about the retro comic series that had came out, where it just seems like it should be called a Jetson Series 1 rather than Hanna-Barbera, because for the most part it's basically just Jetsons, besides the two pops of obviously Huckleberry Hound and then the Space Ghost. I think really the big highlight of this is the Freddy Funko Space Ghost for the most part. And then even for these Jetsons pops, I feel like the normal Jetsons pops are much better than what we have for the NFTs. And then with Series 2, I do like the obscurity that is going along with this, where you do have cool pops like Birdman, and then Mighty Mightor was meh, but that Mr. Jinx with Pixie and Dixie was a really awesome pop. I do really like the Huckleberry Hound much better in Series 2 than with Series 1, but I do like the royalty leaps and bounds better for Series 1 than I like with Series 2. But overall, when comparing them, I'm probably going to have to say Series 2 because of the obscurity involved and how it does feel more like a Hanna-Barbera instead of just Jetsons like we see with Series 1. And does it deserve a Series 3? It does deserve a Series 3, because even though I do think it was a little bit better than Series 1, I think that if they make a Series 3, I think that it could be maybe even leaps and bounds better than both of the series that we're talking about.
Yeah, Series 1 for the Hanna-Barbera NFTs really does feel like the Jetsons NFTs. And if they were great pops, then that wouldn't be too bad of a thing. But I don't really like these pops at all. I think that, okay, Elroy and George Jetson, they both have different attires than their normal classic pops, which is okay. And then Astro just having the space helmet on and he has like a different pose. I don't think that's really enough to make it its own separate pop from the original one that we got. And then the Huckleberry Hound is kind of meh as well. But the Freddy Funko is really awesome as the Space Ghost. I think that that's pretty sweet. And then with Series 2, we got the Huckleberry Hound with guitar. That's really cool. The Birdman and Mighty Mightor are both really cool pops. The Mr. Jinx with the Dixie and Pixie is amazing as well. And then the Freddy Funko Letterman is okay. I mean, put a Huckleberry Hound pop in his hands and have like a Warner Brothers jacket on him. I don't know. It's not great. I'm sure they could have thought of something else better to replace this Freddy Funko. And I feel like these are kind of neck and neck, but I feel like Series 2 is better, mostly because Series 1 was just Jetsons pops that I don't think are very great. I have the OG Jetson set, and I think that that's kind of good enough to of round out the Jetsons pops. I mean, you got pretty much all the characters there. You don't really need variations of characters. And then with series two, of course, we did get some brand new characters, which is awesome to see. Definitely not a bad series at all. And does it deserve a third series? I think yes. I think there's enough characters that are out there to be made still. And hopefully they do kind of have the same approach with series three that they did with series two, where you're getting some cool characters that people kind of care about that we haven't really seen in Funko Pop form before. And then not really just having it all be, let's say, Jetsons or Flintstones, though there have been Flintstones NFTs in the past. So I don't think we'd see them show up in the Hanna-Barbera Series 3 anyways.
Next series we're going to be talking about is the Power Rangers set, which of course we got ourselves Series 1, which had released in August of 2022. For the Grail, we have ourselves the Green Ranger with the Sword of Darkness, along with legendaries, including the Red Ranger with the Dragon Shield, Power Sword, and Dragon Dagger, Ranger Slayer, Scorpina, and Zordon, with the royalty being Freddy Funko as Megazord, which I guess I'll just start off talking about Series 1 right now. This is a pretty decent set. I mean, of course, we have seen lots of Green Rangers and Red Rangers and just Rangers overall, and not enough of these like side characters and villains, but they are still some pretty cool pops, especially that Green Ranger. It ended up going up in price a lot due to the unfortunate passing of Jason David Frank. And then I kind of like the idea of like Red Ranger with like 3 different objects that you can have. The Ranger Slayer, a lot of people would make fun of nowadays because we have a slightly similar one that released as a part of the 30th anniversary set. The Scorpina is pretty cool, but of course the highlight of that was the Zordon. A lot of people were so hyped about that pop, and I do like the way that the Freddy Funko Megazord looks. I kind of like that box-shaped head in a way. I think that was a pretty unique way to make a Freddy Funko. And then we have Series 2 that released, I believe, 1 year after, in August of 2023, which we got ourselves, of course, the Grail being Dulcia, then legendaries including Billy, Aisha, Tommy, and Kimberly, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Ivan Ooze. And this set is meh when you compare, and I'm just going to say it straightforward. Series 1 is leaps and bounds better than Series 2. I think out of all the sets, for the most part, that I could think of that we're talking about today, this is the easiest decision I could think of what series is better than the other, and Series 1 is so much better than this. First off, a completely different Power Rangers with the Power Rangers movie that Series 2 is based off of, compared to the TV show that Series 1 was based off, which I mean is cool, but not really at the same time when the majority of your pops are basically unmasked versions of Power Rangers. I mean, the Tommy was really cool. What's crazy about the set is that legendary Tommy ended up being worth more than the Dulcia Grail, which I don't think has ever happened before for the most part, where your legendary is worth more than your Grail. But at the same time, Jason David Frank is passing, so that had to play an effect in that. And one of the biggest bugaboos about this is, why wasn't Ivan Ooze its own separate character instead of it being the Freddy Funko? I think that was kind of a huge fail, in my opinion, that you could have had the Ivan Ooze at least as the Grail, make Dulcia one of the legendaries for the most part, and then take out one of those unmasked Power Rangers, and then do like Freddy Funko as some sort of side character for the most part. I think it would have been a little bit of a better set, in that it could have compared a little bit better to Series 1 by having a little bit of a chance of being better, but in no way, shape, or form is Series 2 better than Series 1. But does it deserve a Series 3? I think it does, for the sake of they really need to redeem themselves from Series 2, in my opinion, and that go back to this TV series. You can come up with some really cool concepts. I don't want an IP like Power Rangers to be left on such a sour note with a horrible set like Series 2.
Series 1 of Power Rangers. Wow, what a great set. I really do enjoy this. The Green Ranger's awesome. The Ranger Slayer's pretty cool as well. The Red Ranger's okay, but I think that the addition of some of those weaponry there is pretty sweet. Scorpina's really cool to see in the Power Rangers lineup, and then Zordon was crazy to see. This is such an interesting concept for a pop. It looks a little weird, but I think it turned out pretty good at the same time. And then the Freddy Funko as Megazord, that's pretty awesome as well. Overall, this is a great set. And then you can't really say the same for Series 2. I mean, it's not great. I don't think it's terrible, but it is a weird set. I don't think it had to be NFTs. I think that this easily could have been just its own series of common pops and maybe add a couple pops to this to kind of round it out. And then obviously not have the Freddy Funko as Ivan Ooze, just have a normal Ivan Ooze, which I think would have turned out really cool because this pop is pretty cool. I like this Freddy Funko, but not having an Ivan Ooze pop in general just doesn't make sense to go straight to a Freddy Funko and not do that character. And yeah, like DK said, this has got to be the easiest one. Series 1 is way better. Series 1 is almost a perfect set, in my opinion. And Series 2 just, it really is not. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not great by any means. And do the Power Rangers deserve a Series 3? I'm going to say yes, because I feel like there's going to be some pops in Series 3 that I'd like to see. Maybe we get like a putty, or there's a bunch of different things that we could probably see. And I think that that would be really cool. So yeah, hopefully there is a Series 3, and hopefully it's a lot better than Series 2.
Next set we're looking at is the WB Horror set, which the first one we have for Series 1 released in October of 2022, which the pops we have here, we have the Grail being Malthus with Annabelle from Annabelle Creations, along with legendary pops of the Nun with Painting from The Conjuring 2, Pennywise with Spider Legs from It, Father Karras from The Exorcist, and then the Crooked Man from The Conjuring 2, along with the royalty being Freddy Funko as Georgie from It, which this set is pretty decent. I do like the array of different horror movies from Warner Brothers in this. Of course, you got to add It because it is that very popular set. Funko's done so much for that. But adding movies like Conjuring that have never really had pops before, and it's one of my personal favorite horror movies, was really awesome, especially with that Crooked Man, which is one of the most unique pops that I have seen in the NFT sets. The Pennywise with Spider Legs is a pretty awesome pop. Also, I think it definitely is one of my favorite It pops that Funko has done. And then the Grail with Malthus, that's pretty cool. The royalty, I know a lot of people do like this, but there's something like I think it's okay. I don't think it's one of the better ones, but I don't think it's one of the worst royalties at the same time either. And then with Series 2 that had released last month, April of 2024, for the Grail, we have ourselves a Glow in the Dark The Ferryman from Annabelle Creations, along with legendary pops of the Black Shuck from Annabelle Creations, Accordion Monkey from The Conjuring, Goat Demon from The Nun, and then we have Pazuzu from The Exorcist, along with the royalty being a glow-in-the-dark Freddy Funko as Father Karras. This set is still pretty cool also. I do kind of felt that I was a little bit let down because when people got the email for, hey, we're having a Warner Brothers series coming out, that there was a little bit of a description of like the licensors involved, and that a lot of people's hopes were up because one of the licensors listed was the Lost Boys, and so we all thought, wow, new Lost Boys pops coming out for the first time in so many years, but it was only in the form of obviously anything related to the cards that aren't the redeemables. So anything from common to epic, which was a little bit unfortunate because seeing a new character for Lost Boys would have been awesome for the NFT set. And I think that is the reason why I'm actually going to say that Series 1 is better than Series 2 because of that little nitpick. But then I think it just comes down to what I like better for the royalty, I think, at the end of the day. And that's got to be with Series 1, that I think the Freddy Funko Georgie was slightly better than the Father Karras one. And does it deserve a Series 3? Don't think it should get a Series 3 because I would rather see more Warner Brothers licensors, especially in the horror lineup, get its own series for the NFTs for the most part.
So starting off with the Series 1 pops for the Warner Brothers horror, I was kind of disappointed when this set came out because I was really hoping that there was going to be a chance that we would see Gremlins pops in the set. Of course, we did not, but the pops that we did see are pretty cool for the most part. Done with Painting is a very interesting concept for a pop. I think they did a good job of that one. The Pennywise, I hate this pop. I think there's way too many Pennywise pops, and then this is also a damn sideways box, which I also hate that a lot. Then the Malthus is pretty cool as well with Annabelle. I think that's a cool little like kind of pop and buddy pop. Crooked Man is a pretty wicked looking pop. I think that was kind of the highlight of the set, as well as the Father Cross I think was pretty good as well. And then the Freddy Funko as Georgie is a pretty sweet pop. I like how you have the detail of him being so pale because he is like deceased, and the arm missing is cool. And then going on to Series 2, I mean, some of these pops are pretty wicked. The detail in a lot of these are awesome. The Goat Demon is neat. great. The accordion monkey is unreal. I think that there's so much going on with this pop that it's going to be a pop that people love for a long time, I think. Then the black shuck. This is a weird one. I'd say it's probably like my least favorite out of this set. Ferryman is pretty cool as well. There's a lot of detail going into that pop. Then the Freddy Funko as Father Cross, I think, is an interesting route to go, but I think it does make sense to kind of give a callback to Series 1 by adding this character to the set again. And then the Pazuzu, I think, is a really interesting pop as well. I don't mind that one at all. I think it's a great addition for the Exorcist set, considering it seems like for the most part, we were getting a lot of Exorcist pops that were kind of just the same thing. A lot of Regans that were just almost the same as the last. So it's cool to see a couple different pops like Pazuzu to kind of fill out that set. Now, do I like Series 1 or Series 2 more? This is a tough one. I think these are pretty neck and neck. I think I'm going to give it to Series 2, though, because I think there's a lot more detail that went into Series 2. And does Warner Brothers Horror deserve a third series? I don't know. I don't think I'd necessarily want to see it, but I do think that we could see a lot of cool pops. So I'm going to say no personally, but if we do see a third series, I do think there's going to be some cool stuff in it, and I probably won't hate that series.
Next set we're going to be talking about is the April Fool's set, which the first one it came out in April of 2023, which only has 3 redeemables with literally 1 pop for each rarity. So for the Grail, we have Freddy Funko with Max Token Head, along with the legendary being Egg, and then we have the baby Freddy as the royalty, which overall this set was really awesome for Funko to do just as their own IP and not have to dabble into money to get license approvals for different IPs. The Freddy Funko with Max Token Head gave me a bit of hope to where if they did do a series 2 at the time, not thinking that there could be a series 2, that they could do the opposite where we finally get the first Max Token Head Funko Pop, which I still hope is something that they end up doing at some point. The egg is hilarious because of obviously one of the most well-known Funko April Fool's jokes of like, hey, we're releasing a pop of an egg on the Funko shop, and then it never happened. But now here with the NFTs, we did get that pop finally come to fruition, which is cool. And then the baby Freddy is really awesome with like the oversized crown and especially holding a wacky wobbler of El Diablo from their Fantastic Plastic set, which is really, really awesome. So for Series 2, which had released in, of course, April of 2024, 1 year later, we have 4 redeemables this time with 2 legendaries and then, of course, 1 royalty and 1 grail. The grail being Opposite Freddy, the legendaries being Burning Pack and Chick, and then the royalty being Balloon Proto. When originally trying to think of different things involved with a Series 2, I thought this probably would be the final series that we would get from an April Fool's, and that I don't think it's possible for a Series 3, just with what they had pulled off and kind of hinted from Series 1. But after seeing this, this is just an amazing set. This blew my mind for the most part. That Burning Pack is one of the most hilarious inside jokes that Funko has ever done. And you have the evolution of that egg pop from Series 1 with the chick. So I wonder, will there be a full-on chicken maybe for the next series if there is one? And then Balloon Animal Proto is a pretty funny one for the royalty. And then that Opposite Freddy is hilarious for the fact of the opposite of what a Funko Pop is, with now a large body and a small head. I definitely think Series 2 is better just because of the amount of jokes that are involved with here. Now that goes to, does it deserve a Series 3? Now at this point, it definitely deserves a Series 3, and I think it deserves a Series 4, a Series 5. I am more interested in this April Fool's set every year now than I am interested when it comes to the Halloween set.
The April Fool's NFT sets, oh, these are great. So starting off with the egg was hilarious, and I'm really glad that this actually happened. I think that it's such a cool idea. The baby Freddy is a really cool pop as well. The oversized crown is such a good addition to this pop to make him look even smaller, even though he is like a normal size pop. And then the Freddy Funko holding the Max Token Head, I think, is a really good idea, and something that I didn't notice until DK was actually talking about this pop is that the Max Token Head is actually holding a Freddy Funko. So I wonder if that's like the smallest popified character that we've seen, is that tiny little Freddy Funko in the tiny little Max Token Head's hand. I wonder if that's the way that that is, but I think that that's a very interesting attention to detail there. And then going into Series 2, of course, the egg has evolved or hatched, and we have the chick now. I thought that that was a really cool card. I like the animation for it, and the pop itself is really great as well. The Balloon Proto is really neat as well. I like the idea of that, and it turned out great. I mean, that pop looks sweet. The burning pack is hilarious, like DK said, with them burning the packs. This was such a great idea. It really does give that kind of like ad icons, like foodies kind of vibe, the way that you have like just an animated thing that isn't actually like a character of any sort. And then the Popposite Freddy is one of my favorites. I think that this is such a smart idea by Funko to have a Freddy Funko where he has the small head and the large body. It looks ridiculous. I mean, it looks so weird. And it's just like, imagine if this is what Funko Pops looked like, where we didn't have the large heads, it was large bodies. It's kind of disturbing when you think about it, but it's really cool. Both of these sets are amazing. I'm gonna have to go ahead and say that Series 2 is better than Series 1. Series 1 is great, but Series 2 is super innovative with the burning pack. The Popposite Freddy, I think, is hilarious. Does it deserve a Series 3? Definitely, I think so. I think that stuff will happen throughout Funko history, and they can keep making different April Fool's Day pops because there's stuff that they're always going to be able to joke about. They're a business, nobody's perfect, and they're going to make some mistakes.
And the last set we're going to be talking about, and theoretically, I should have kicked off with this because Series 1 came out well before any of the Series 1 involving these sets that have multiple series, but I saved it because it has the most amount of series at this point. We are talking about the annual Halloween set. We have a total of 3, which one technically shouldn't be a part of this, but I'm adding it anyways because it's the whole idea of Freddy Funko Halloween. So starting off with Series 1, which released in October of 2021. That year is when Funko NFTs began, which we have 4 redeemables here. It's the Freddy Funko as Devil as the Grail, the Freddy Funko as Skeleton for Legendary, along with the Freddy Funko as Vampire, and then we have ourselves the Freddy Mummy, which now, as I realized, I kind of butchered that because the Freddy Vampire, I believe, is actually the royalty of the set, while it's the soda that is the legendary, along with the Freddy Funko Skeleton, which this was a pretty unique set. Of course, only 4 redeemables. At this point, we didn't even really get that many pops for each set. I don't think we gotten like 6 pops in a set until like earlier on in 2022. This overall is pretty decent, especially with the fact that you had the Skeleton and Vampire because of the soda that came out, where I believe the Vampire was the common and the Skeleton was the chase. Now you have them in pop form. The Devil one is a little bit meh, and then having that soda, I guess, is pretty cool. But like MD mentioned, it's a little bit weird to throw in a soda when it's called Pop Digital for the most part, but not like Soda Digital. Then we got Series 2, which released exactly a year later in October of 2022, in which this time we do have 6 redeemables. First off, with the Grail being Invisible Freddy, with the legendaries being Phantom Freddy, Reaper Freddy, Krampus Freddy, and then Space Zombie Freddy, and then the royalty being Jack-o'-lantern Freddy. These pops are wicked. This definitely, I will say, was leaps and bounds better than Series 1 the prior year. All of them have a unique, different detail design, and all these shot up like really high price on the secondary market. That Space Zombie Freddy is a work of art with the detail, with the broken helmet, the like creatures that are all the way around him, and the little homage to Funko themselves with the number 98 on the astronaut outfit, doing the little Easter egg of Funko being founded in 1998. And then with the recent set of Funkoween, which I believe that's what they're going to be calling this set from now on, while the prior 2 years they didn't really have a name up until that point, which we got ourselves the Grail being Freddy Funko as Zombie Samurai, and then we have the legendaries of Freddy Funko as Zombie Knight, Zombie Ninja, Zombie Gunslinger, and Zombie Pirate, with the royalty being Proto as Zombie, which I believe this was the first NFT set to feature Proto as a part of any of the sets. And this set is okay. Like, I like the whole idea of obviously Freddy dressing up as different Halloween costumes, but I don't like the idea, and I'll keep saying this, I don't like the idea of how every single one was just zombie as something. I wouldn't have mind if maybe one of them was the zombie, which preferably Proto, and then the rest is Freddy Funko as a different thing. I don't think we needed a zombie for every single pop in this set. Which do I like better as terms to all 3? And I guess I could do a little bit of a ranking system here, worst to best, and I will say 1 3, 2. So 1 being the least because of it having only 4 redeemables. The reason I'm giving this one credit as kind of like the middle tier is obviously there's a lot of different ones to choose from. Plus, this was the very first set of Funko NFTs to have some sort of specification involved with it, with every pop being glow in the dark. So that was a cool, unique idea to drive fans to buy packs. And then, of course, you have the proto, which is amazing. But yeah, that whole idea of everyone being a zombie instead of maybe 1 or 2 of them just kind of threw it off to me, to where I'm going to say that Series 2 is the best out of all 3 of these. These are absolutely awesome. The different themes that they went with, like, yeah, look at Series 2. There is a zombie one, and that was the only one. You could have done that for just Series 3 also, technically, with the Funkoween Series 1. And does it deserve a Series 4 realistically? Technically, yes. And even if I said no, it's inevitable that we're getting a Halloween set every single year for the NFTs.
Yeah, Halloween Series 1 is very simplistic. I mean, you got your Freddy Funkos, you got the devil, the skeleton, and the vampire, and then, of course, the soda can of the Freddy mummy, which is okay, but yeah, again, sodas in the NFT sets are very, very weird. Then with Series 2, you kind of open up to some more, like, character-driven things, like the Invisible Freddy is really interesting, the Krampus is cool. I personally really like the Phantom Freddy. I think that that's a great pop, and then the Space Zombie Freddy is wicked as well. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. It is a work of art, like DK said. And then going into the Funkoween Series 1 or the Halloween Series 3, depending on how you want to look at it. Yeah, they definitely took a different approach. I mean, it's still Freddy Funko for the most part, besides the Proto. I'll start with the Proto. The Proto is wicked. I love this. I think it's really cool. I like how his arm's ripped off and he's holding it. I think that that's awesome. And then the rest of them are just Freddy Funko if he was a zombie, and also if he was a samurai, or if he was a ninja. So it's really weird. I don't love this set, and there's a lot of detail that went into this, especially with the faces of the zombies, whereas you have the Space Zombie Freddy from the Halloween Series 2, where I think that that's perfect the way that that looks. I think that if they would have went the detailed route with this Space Zombie Freddy, it wouldn't have looked as good. It looks good with the simplistic kind of zombie look to him. It's a little more cartoony, and I think that that's the way that it should be. Do we deserve to see Funkoween Series 2, I guess is what it would be. I think it's inevitable. I think we will see it, and hopefully we do see something different.
Anyways, guys, that's going to be the end of this edition of the Funko Podcast. If you enjoyed this edition, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know down below on whether you think some of these series deserve a Series 3 or not. And we hope to see you guys next time on the channel, whether it's a video or a podcast. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Peace in, peace out.